Hi, today we are going to learn about Academic Writing Task 1, where you are required to write a summary in response to a line chart, pie chart, bar chart, table or diagram. Well, in this video, we'll specifically focus on diagrams or process diagrams. We'll learn how to write a high-scoring diagram summary in your writing task 1. So let's begin with understanding what process diagrams are. A process is a series of steps or actions taken in order to achieve a particular end. For instance, to make a cup of tea, you perform a series of 4 to 5 steps. You boil water, you add sugar and tea powder, next you add milk, you let it boil for some time before finally serving it hot. That's a process of making tea, where the end result is your cup of hot tea. Now, if we represent this process in visual form, it looks something like this. This process diagram illustrates how to make tea. So a process diagram is simply a visual representation of a process, which shows the different stages of how something is made or how something works. Of course, on the IELTS, you'll not get something super easy like this one. IELTS process diagrams are more complex and complicated. But no need to worry, stick with me till the end of this video and you'll learn how to tackle and answer any diagram question, no matter how complicated it is, right? So basically you get a picture and you have to describe what's happening in the picture. Let me show you a sample diagram question. As you can see, there is a diagram, a question statement and some general instructions to follow. As per the instructions given, you should spend about 20 minutes on the task and you need to write at least 150 words. Let's read out the question statement. It says, the diagram illustrates the different stages of the water cycle. Summarize the information given in the diagram. Now, the first and the most important step in writing a summary is to analyze and understand the diagram. Without understanding the diagram, you surely won't be able to write about it. You need to take a couple of minutes to understand what's actually happening in the diagram before starting to write about it. You can begin with finding where the process starts and ends. If we look at the diagram, we see the process is cyclical in nature, which begins with evaporation, sublimation or transpiration. These three parallel processes together add water to the air in the form of water vapors. So the process begins with three parallel processes: evaporation, sublimation and transpiration. Now let's see where it ends. The process ends with rainwater falling into water bodies directly or through surface runoff, or seeping into the ground through the process of infiltration. The next step is to understand each stage of the process. Go through the labels and each element of the diagram to understand what's happening in each stage. Let's quickly see what each stage of this diagram is doing. The three parallel stages, evaporation, transpiration and sublimation, form water vapors in the air. These vapors go through the process of condensation to form clouds. Then through the process of precipitation, water is released from clouds in the form of rain or snow. This rainwater again enters water bodies or seeps into the ground through the process of infiltration. And once again the cycle continues. So this is the whole picture. Once you have familiarized yourself with the diagram, it's time to start writing the answer. Now, to give you an example of a Band 9 summary for this diagram, here's a sample. Let's look at the summary section by section. The first paragraph is the introduction, which simply introduces the topic to the examiner to make them familiar with what you are going to write about. Now, some students copy-paste the topic statement in the introduction. That's not going to impress the examiner. What you need to do is paraphrase the topic statement in your own words. Write the same thing but in different words. Let's look at the introduction written in the sample answer. The diagram demonstrates the various stages in the natural process of water cycle. It illustrates the cyclic way in which water moves on, above, and below the surface of the earth. As you can see, paraphrasing is done by replacing the word illustrates with demonstrates and different with various. The phrase natural process has also been added to emphasize that the process is natural. The next line says the same thing again in different words. So introduction is nothing but rephrasing of the topic statement. Let's move on to the next paragraph, general overview. In the overview paragraph, you need to describe the general features of the diagram, such as the number of stages, or how the process begins and ends, or if it is cyclical or linear in nature. This helps the reader to grasp the main information or key information in the diagram, right? Let's see what is written in the sample summary. Overall, the process of water cycle has three main stages: evaporation, condensation, and precipitation. The process begins with evaporation and ends in precipitation. Notice the word overall here. It indicates that you are going to describe general trends. So mention the number of stages the process has and how it begins and ends. That's all. Alright, once you have written the overview, it's time to delve into the specific details of the diagram. For this, you need to describe each stage in detail. Let's see how each stage in the sample diagram is described. As you can see, here the process is described in three different paragraphs. The first paragraph talks about the process of evaporation, how vapors are formed. Water from large water bodies evaporates in the form of water vapor in the air. Apart from evaporation, heat from the sun causes sublimation of snow and transpiration from plants to add water to air. So these three stages are described in the first paragraph. The second paragraph talks about the process of condensation. It says, this vapor then condenses because of the drop in the temperature to form clouds in a process called condensation. Further, these clouds keep drifting from one place to another with more condensed vapors added to them. Now the last paragraph will focus on precipitation and infiltration. When these clouds get clogged with heavy vapors, they fall back to the earth in the form of rain droplets. This process of turning vapors to water droplets is called precipitation. Thereafter, the rainwater finds its way back to water bodies through surface runoff or seeps into the ground after undergoing the natural process of infiltration to complete the cycle. This is how you should structure your response. First, introduce the topic by paraphrasing the question, then write an overview by describing the general features of the diagram. Write about the number of stages and how the process begins and ends, and finally describe each stage in detail. Now let me tell you why an IELTS examiner will give this sample answer an 8 or 9 band score. The examiner, while assessing your writing response, looks for 4 main things in your writing: task achievement, coherence and cohesion, lexical resource, grammatical range and accuracy. If you do well in each of the criteria, you are bound to score high in your writing test. Let's go over each of these parameters to understand what they mean and what all things you can do to score high in each one of them. Task achievement simply means covering all the parts of the question. The examiner evaluates whether you presented a clear introduction, overview, and description of specific features of the process. If we look at the model answer, the first paragraph clearly introduces the topic by paraphrasing the question statement. The next paragraph gives an overview of main information. And finally, the body describes each stage of the process in sequence. Now, besides covering all the parts of the question, it's also important to stick to the topic. Even if you have knowledge of the given process, do not add any extra information thinking it might fetch you some extra marks, because it won't. In fact, you'll lose some. Therefore, stick to the topic. Write what you see in the diagram, nothing more than that. Coherence and cohesion means that your response should be well structured and logical. As you can see here, the writing is structured using 5 paragraphs, which includes introduction, overview, and 3 body paragraphs. Now, it's not just about paragraphing, you also have to make sure that the paragraphs or sentences connect with each other so that they make sense. The reader should also understand what you are trying to say. For this, linking words are used, such as apart from, then, further, thereafter. Such linking words are extremely important when describing a process, as they help in explaining the different stages of the process in a proper sequence. Lexical resource means your range of vocabulary. The examiner evaluates the sort of vocabulary you have used while describing the process. Look at the kind of vocabulary used in the sample answer. Demonstrates, large water bodies, drop in the temperature, that's a nice phrase. Drifting, clogged, some uncommon words here. Heavy vapors, rain droplets, finds its way back, seeps into the ground. Really rich vocabulary that could easily push your band score higher. Let's talk about grammatical range and accuracy now. Grammatical range is your hold over grammar. The examiner checks your range of grammar and how accurately you have used it while writing your response. Here, present simple tense has been used to describe the diagram with good control of subject-verb agreement and active-passive forms. Also, a mix of simple and complex sentences have been used to demonstrate the hold over different grammatical structures. While writing your task response, you need to keep these 4 marking criteria in your mind. You need to cover all the parts of the question. You need to make your writing well structured and well connected. You need to deliberately use sophisticated vocabulary and advanced grammatical structures. Do all this and you'll definitely score high in your writing task 1. Alright, so that's the end of our video. If you're preparing for IELTS and need any further assistance, we are always there for you. Visit our website yunolearning.com, take a look at our courses and book the course you like. And start your IELTS preparation with one of our expert trainers from the comfort of your home. I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye.